Joe here from ActionX. Welcome to What's on the Tube, or welcome back if you're a fan of mine and you're just very curious to hear my thoughts on things. So before I continue, I want to apologize um, that we're currently I'm doing some new things. I'm trying to calibrate the What's on the Tube set. We got lights. I moved the microphone. I'm using my Canon camera instead of my usual Sony Handycam, so I'm switching things up a little bit. Because since we're still experimenting with the format, these quick impressions will serve mostly as setup for hopefully what the 2021 reviews will be like. So if things are subject to change, you know what I mean? So bear with us for the next few weeks as we're still adjusting. The camera will change quality, the lights will be changing, the microphone positioning will be changing. A lot of things are changing. That's it. I'm hopeful to God that this impressions will come out very well in post. So if you're unaware, this is What's on the Tube's quick impressions, where every time I talk about my quick opinions on a show that I watched during the pandemic, or even before the pandemic, just in general. Since for me, the whole point of doing quick impressions is I want to talk about the show, but it's not going to be a full series review. It's not going to be a full review per se. It's just me talking about the show, why I got into the show, why did I like the show, why I didn't like the show, and hopefully the door will be open for potentially later on in the future to discuss it further, whether it is doing an every season review for it or just doing more of a proper series review with a guest host or something of that sort. So, but however, I do want to talk about the show right here, right now. So that's what it is. So this week on Quick Impressions, we're talking about Young Sheldon, which I think I did my Big Bang Quick Impressions, I believe earlier this year or late last year. I don't remember when I did this, when I did that one. So with that one, I was really hooked on Big Bang Theory. I really enjoyed it, and I was very excited for the end. And I was aware there was a prequel with Young Sheldon. I was aware of that. That was a show. I didn't immediately go to it because I don't know, like it was the weird thing. Like it's a prequel, so you understand that we already technically know where the character of Sheldon Cooper is going to end up by the end of the run, but we don't know how he got there. And I always didn't. For me, when I was at the very end of Big Bang Theory, I knew in my heart that I didn't want to jump into Young Sheldon while Big Bang Theory was happening, because I was always going to like compare the two shows, like, oh, Big Bang Theory does this better or Young Sheldon does this better. I didn't want to do that. I wanted to let Big Bang Theory finish its run and properly do it. So, and I did purchase the DVDs ahead of time. Every Black Friday I would purchase the DVDs. They were really cheap, so I would say, screw it, I'm going to watch it down the line. So I would just have them ready to go. And it wasn't until the pandemic hit, even though Big Bang Theory ended back more than a year ago. It's been over, Jesus, that's how long things have been. And I still didn't go. Like, I initially thought I was going to jump into Young Sheldon as soon as Big Bang ended, so that when season 3 came out, I could just go from there. But I just completely skipped it over. I just did not. I don't know what was going on at the time. I think it was just What's on the Tube was starting to pick up for me, so I just didn't have time to go and rewatch Young Sheldon or watch Young Sheldon for the first time. And it wasn't until the pandemic hit where I was starting to go through some of my DVD backlog. I was trying to get through that, and then Young Sheldon was there, and I finally said, you know what, screw it, let's do it. Will it be as addicting as Big Bang Theory, or is it going to be better? Was it going to be worse? I've heard the opinions all over the place. Like, a lot of people seem to enjoy Young Sheldon. Some people don't. I'm not surprised, considering the fact it's not another Big Bang Theory. It's its own thing. I mean, it is still made by the same man, Chuck Lorre. So it's still got the same people behind it, but it's not another Big Bang Theory. It's not a sitcom style thing. This is more like a comedy show, where a sitcom is basically you're on a set in a soundstage. So you see 3 walls, but you don't see the 4th wall. In Young Sheldon, it's clear this is an actual set. You're in the house. You see all 4 walls on occasion. So you know in your heart this is real. If you wanna understand what I mean by that, it's not in your typical sitcom style. It's not in that way or form. And I think that was a good decision they made early on. Where again, being at it is so closely related with Big Bang Theory, it would have been a little bit too much if they had just done another Big Bang Theory, except with a younger Sheldon and a whole new cast of his for his family. I felt like they did a right decision trying to let's do something different. it is connected. It is this. It's still the same universe. We definitely get a lot of callbacks to Big Bang Theory throughout Young Sheldon's even 3 seasons. Like we've had so I can name like a dozen right now, and but seeing that go through, like it definitely does showcase that. Yeah, Young Sheldon is trying to be its own thing, and for me personally, if I want to just give my quick impressions, I really did enjoy the show. I really did. I don't think it's as good as Big Bang Theory. I don't think it'll ever be, because the thing with Big Bang Theory is that I immediately got hooked on that show. Like from season 1, episode 1, I just binged that until the last episode, season 11, when it was still on the DVD. So that's how addicted I was to Big Bang Theory. Also, if you're wondering why I keep moving, I look to the left. I'm just trying to look at my window screen that reflects off to the computer, so I could just see that we're still going, and we are still going, so that's good. But anyway, so what was I talking about? Oh yeah, Young Sheldon. So when I got to Young Sheldon, I didn't necessarily binge both seasons, because I only had the first 2 seasons on DVD. Season 3 hadn't came out yet. So when I binged the first 2 seasons, it was not an immediate week process. It took me, I want to say, a month. And that's like, regular binging, if you're just normally, watching the show. So it wasn't on that level. It just wasn't. I knew in my heart it was never going to be, but I still definitely enjoyed the show. It definitely was very much of a different sort of beast compared to Big Bang Theory, where they had their own sprawling cast of characters, from Sheldon himself to his family, his fellow Coopers. We see Wallace Shawn as... Damn, I haven't... What's the name of Wallace Shawn? Like, that's the funny thing. Like, Wallace Shawn, who plays Rex in Toy Story. Like, I feel so sorry for him because no one ever goes to him. Oh, Dr. Sturgeon. Yeah, there we go. And then eventually Pastor Jeff from the church eventually comes along in season 3, kind of becomes more involved in the plot. Well, not really involved in the plot. He's just in more episodes. And, they have the other, like, the neighbors and... Georgie's crush, who was initially one of those like easy go-getter girls. I guess what that's defined back in the 80s and 90s. I think that's what they call it. I'm not really sure. I'm wrong on that. But then eventually turns into more of a conservative Christian that stops Georgie in his tracks. And there's more and Tang, and I was like, sorry, I'm like my brain is just like remembering these characters. So my apologies there. But again, this being a comedy show, this doesn't really have much plot in it. Sure, we do see growth in our characters, specifically in Sheldon, to a bit. I mean, the thing is that this young Sheldon Cooper, let's say him, is very much the same essence as our Sheldon played by Jim Parsons on the main show. They're very much very different beasts. Yes, there's going to be some development, but it's not. I personally don't think it will be as big as a development compared from season 1 Sheldon to season 12 Sheldon. I don't think we're gonna see that much of a change, in my opinion. I feel like we've definitely seen some change so far, but it's not gonna be a very much of a major change. If I have to use another TV show here as an analogy, think of Gotham, which I know George is somehow watching this. He's very mad at me for mentioning Gotham after more than a year off the air. I apologize, George. But anyway, when Gotham started, I've heard interviews that the way Gotham was going to go before they figured out it was going to be 5 seasons, they knew that Gotham was never going to be a massive, like, Jim Gordon's going to be the one to save the city. He was never going to be. He was always going to be the guy who is going to help save the city, but he wasn't going to be the one. They described it as there's going to be small victories, but there's never going to be a big victory until we get Batman. That was always the premise that Gotham was being sold on. Nothing major is going to happen until Batman shows up. So everything you're seeing, any victory you see, that was a very small percentage they were even going to get it. And they got it. Sure, they got it, but still, it was never necessarily going to be the major success as they were going to go. That's how I describe it with Young Sheldon, where Young Sheldon Cooper will, again, I don't know when Young Sheldon's going to end. They never give a road plan. It depends on the rating success. I could easily see this show going for maybe another 2 more seasons, at least. I mean, don't get me wrong. I do believe they're going to go on for longer. But at least for me, I don't see this ending anytime soon, per se. I do believe since CBS isn't one to give up on its franchise yet, since they already invested so much time and money and resources into Young Sheldon, I don't necessarily think it's going to be the end anytime soon. So whether or not we will see this actor continue Young Sheldon until he's around Here's the, I don't expect Young Sheldon to surpass 12 seasons. Let's just say that it's not gonna go for 12 seasons. It's not. It's gonna end somewhere around probably 18. He was, I think, 9 when the show started. Yeah, probably 9 or 10. I think it was 10. I should have the DVD on hand. I don't have the DVD. I would just read it up. I think it was 8, 9, or 10, around that age. So I do believe it's gonna be around 18, around there, and we're just gonna see like a cut to probably another actor playing him before we see him in Big Bang Theory. That's what I'm thinking. I'm just not sure. But anyway, enough about me theorizing where the show's gonna end. Let's talk about the actual show because I felt like I skipped most of it over. The premise is basically Sheldon Cooper as a kid. That's basically a kid Sheldon Cooper. That's basically, like, think of Young Indiana Jones. This is a Young Sheldon. That's basically the premise. Because a lot of people love Sheldon was definitely the breakout character in Breaking Bad. Breaking Bad. Oh my god, my head is so. Oh man, he was the star. He was the breakout character in Big Bang Theory. It's an ensemble piece, yes, but Sheldon Cooper is the star. We all come for Sheldon Cooper. Jim Parsons did an amazing performance. He won Emmys because of that role. He deserved it, and it was well deserved. It definitely showcased in the show. So of course, obviously, CBS was like, "Screw it, let's continue this character," because I think they knew the writing was on the wall that this show was not going to continue past season 12. So that they didn't want to let that character go just quite yet. But they couldn't necessarily sign Jim Parsons off for a proper Sheldon spinoff. That was never going to happen. Let's be honest here. And don't get me wrong, does that mean that all the Big Bang Theory's characters are open to getting their own spin-offs? I personally don't think so. It's weird because, like, they made such a big deal about Sheldon's development in the last season. Like, it was clear, it's clear as night as day that the Sheldon from season 1 of Big Bang Theory is not the same as season 12. It definitely isn't. And of course, obviously, fans were curious, like, how was Sheldon a pain in the ass as an adult was when he was a kid? Was he an even more bigger pain in the ass? Was he developing to be a pain in the ass? We want to know. And that's what they did. And I felt like they gave a lot more attention to the backstory of the Cooper family, not as much as the other characters. Maybe a little bit more on Penny and Leonard. I think they got the closest amount. But Sheldon's backstory was really developed out. He had more of his own family members pop in on the main show. He had more references, more stories to tell from his time period. I feel like enough was told to eventually consider that, you know what, let's do it. Let's explore more about this. Because mild spoilers, they said this is Big Bang Theory, they mentioned this in Young Sheldon, so this is not really a spoiler. Sheldon's dad eventually dies. And I feel like that's kind of like what we're working towards with the main series, with Young Sheldon. Is that no matter what, they're building to that moment. And of course, obviously, they kind of deviated from certain aspects of that from the original Big Bang Theory tellings. So I do believe they're going to do something different. But because the way Big Bang Theory set out the Young Sheldon storyline, at least before Young Sheldon was a thing, was that Sheldon's father was more as a cheat, more of a drunk, more as an asshole, per se, than as seen in the show. Again, ironically, the actor who plays Sheldon's father on Young Sheldon did play a Big Bang Theory character on Big Bang Theory, so it was irony, but they never made that reference. So I think this was way before the time of the spinoff. But when we got to the actual show, we start to realize that, like, things are not always as they seem. Not in a bad way per se, because the Cooper family feels like a very dysfunctional family. Like, on paper, should they be a family? Not at all. Should they survive as a family? Not at all. But that's what they do. They somehow do. I won't say Sheldon is the glue. I don't think he's the glue. I think all of them, in a way, are the glue for this entire family. Because this is still a family piece. Big Bang Theories was a friends piece, where it was about the commodity and the shared experiences between all these friends. Young Sheldon is the shared experience and the story of this family. Where, yeah, you have the father who basically is regretting certain life choices. The mother who is trying her damn best to be a good mother, but also be what's the term? I don't want to say preachy, but like a one that believes in the divine spirit of the Lord. You have Georgie, who's your typical teenager who cares about girls, sports, wanting to get ahead in life. Missy's kind of like the odd one out. Well, the odd before Sheldon. She definitely is the lovable one, where she's just basically she's able to do whatever she wants, and we're all just gonna laugh at it. And then we have Sheldon, our prize character, who, yeah, it's very, even on the show, like it's very rare to see someone, a prodigy at that low, at that age, and that's where it shines through, is that all those characters together makes the show work. It makes it work, and it tells a story. Like, because obviously, even though the title says Young Sheldon, it's not always about Sheldon himself, because there's only so much you can do with that character. It's the characters around Sheldon and around the way how they interact with him and how he impacts them, and I feel like that's the greatest strength of the show. Is like it's not a prequel. It's not a prequel for a prequel sake, where we're not getting every single origins and every single episode. They didn't blow their like. The thing about the creative team, which I'll give credit to, is that they were able to properly and assess how the movements of the show was going to go. They didn't necessarily. We didn't get the bazinga stuff like Sheldon's usual catchphrase on Big Bang Theory. We didn't get that until season 2. So they could have easily blown their load out in season 1. Like, let's get every Sheldon Cooper, set up for the main series done in season 1, because it's a TV show. You never know if you're going to get a season 2 or not. But since this is a relation to Big Bang Theory, it is being led in by Big Bang Theory. That the show was obviously going to get renewed, so they knew in their heart, like, they didn't need to, like, tell everything. And we still don't know everything. I mean, we still don't know. There's still so much we don't know about this world of Young Sheldon, this time period of life. We still don't know how Sheldon gets to college. We still don't know how his dad eventually dies. We still don't know those elements yet, and that's the great thing about. Well, that's the one good thing about about certain prequels, is that yes, they tease you enough in the main product, but when you get to the prequel, there's still more stories. You know where it's going to end up, but you kind of have this expectation that, like, okay, I'm starting to know more. It's going to still be a farther away task to do so, but it is possible to get there. And I really do hope Young Sheldon gets to that point, because the moments between... I feel like the standout moments in the show for me are between Sheldon and his dad. I feel like those are the prime moments of the show. It's weird. I feel like because I have a much more closer relationship with my father, that I think I can relate more to Sheldon and Georgie Sr. I feel like that was more the dynamic I latched onto the most, where in season 1, Sheldon, his dad, and Georgie Jr., well, Georgie we call him the show, we just call the other Mr. Cooper or whatever, they all went to a road trip to go see the rocket launch for NASA. I think this was in Florida. Was it Florida? I think it was either Texas or Florida. I think it was Florida. But they both went, and then, despite it not turning out the way it turned out to be, Sheldon still had a moment with his father. Like, there was moments throughout season 1, season 2, even the one in, I think it was the season 3 finale, or the penultimate episode in season 3, where every kid kind of latches to their mom because they are the more affectionate one. Like, it was more common back in the day for, like, the mothers to be more affectionate, the fathers to be the more strictest ones. So if something was to go wrong, you would go to your mother for support. But then there was that moment in season 3 which instead it was the role reverse, that Sheldon was the one who needed his father most, and they normally don't get along. Because that's the thing, like, his father is mostly into sports. He knows that world. He knows how to be a more typical father. But Sheldon's not your typical kid. Not at all. And I feel like those moments, like, the moments where they see eye to eye, or they finally have a true father-son connection, it shines through, and that was one of the more heartwarming pieces of the show. It didn't make me cry per se, but I'm just saying it was heartwarming. And then... And I keep skipping out. I keep forgetting about Mima. Like, Mima, my God, what I feel like she's gonna be the breakout character. Either she is or she hasn't been yet. She's gonna be the breakout character for this series, because Mima's just so... What's the phrase? She's out of control. Like, you never really... she's not your typical grandma. She's very much her own woman, and, we all love her. I don't know why, every time she gets angry, I'm like, I'm so excited to see what she does next. And... you get this certain expectation from her, and then you learn from certain decisions she makes that no, she's not entirely like that. She can be something different, and also she's played by the amazing Annie Potts, which I did not know she played Bo Peep in the Toy Story movies. Like, I honest to God did not know that, and I'm like, Wow, that's so. And I think Craig T. Nelson, or not Craig T. Nelson, the actor who played Mr. Incredible and Incredibles is also in this series. I think I gotta look up the names. I gotta look them up. Like that's the thing when you watch too many movies and TV shows. Like slowly you start to recognize all these faces, and then it's like, wow, they're in this, they're in that. I was watching Doctor Who, where I'm watching series 3 for the series 3 review. Me and George are about to record soon, and they had Andrew Garfield in there. And I'm like, Jesus Christ, I know way too many actors by this point to even know about it. But yeah. I'm trying to think what else I could say. It's again, this is only a quick impression. It's not really meant to be a series review, but overall, quickly looking, again, this is still an ongoing show. I don't think this will ever be reviewed properly in many years. Hopefully, we're still doing this down the line. I just don't see that happening. But I really did enjoy the show. I really did. I feel like this show is making its own identity, even though it's only 3 seasons in. You assume that by this point, it does have an identity, but it's still trying to grow out of the Big Bang Theory side of things, where it is trying to just be its own thing. Like, sure, eventually down the line we will probably get more Big Bang, references as we get closer to the more season 1 present timeline compared to where we were at the start of Young Sheldon. As these characters grow older, as these characters grow and develop more and mature more, we are going to get closer to those directions. And thankfully, HBO Max had season 3 before I bought them DVD, so that worked out well for me. But I really did enjoy Young Sheldon. I really did. I feel like it's a worthy continuation of the Big Bang Theory story in terms of a prequel form. I highly recommend it for any Big Bang Theory fan. And I know I missed a lot. I skipped a lot over the last where I didn't talk about everything. I didn't talk about Pastor Jeff and his green card supposed marriage to that really attractive Hispanic woman. Oh, sorry about that. And then you have Tang, who is Sheldon's. Well, he was his only best friend. He was like kind of the pre-Leonard and everyone else. He's pretty funny too, and to see his family dynamic and how things were back in that. I think it was back in the 80s, and and Georgie's quest to try to get the girl. That's always funny to see. They started putting fantasies in his imagination. I'm like, oh my god, why are you doing this, George? You just ask her out. Well, actually, he did ask her out, and he failed. So my camera just died. I think I'm still recording. So if you just see this lasting static image of me, I apologize. I think this is the time period, and I'll probably just replace it with the thumbnail at this point in time. So if you were unaware, this has been What's on the Tube, reviewing a quick impression on Young Sheldon. Remember, quick impressions are meant to take over the time periods of our current every season review for both Arrow and Doctor Who. So you can check them out right now. Because if you're unaware, overall What's on the Tube, we are also doing every Arrow season in review. Every Arrow season reviewed with me and Sal every Tuesday. But also we're doing every Doctor Who series reviewed with George every Saturday. So we are currently on an off week for Doctor Who. We'll be back next week with the series 2 review. And then we'll be back. So I don't have another quick impressions. Actually, I'm doing a quick impressions week, I think, after this next coming week, because sadly enough, when I was things are subject to change, since the whole point of quick impressions, they're meant to slot in case something does happen with our production schedules. So things are always subject to change, so that's what I meant. But I think we have another quick impressions week coming up in a couple weeks. So if you only care about me rambling on about any other show, then you're in luck. I'll be back in a couple of weeks to talk about more shows. Won't spoil them quite just yet. Those will be. I don't want to announce them because I know what I'm doing on my computer. I just don't know what specifically I'm going to do for that week. So stay tuned for that. But if you're unaware, this has been What's in the Tube from ActionX. If you want to see more of What's in the Tube and our other related content to it, please subscribe to ActionX on YouTube.com. Ring the bell for notification when our next review is live. Like, favorite, share if you want to boost our chances to get us more viewers and more fans and not fans. Well, you know what I mean. Just to get more attention. There you go. There you go. As well as follow us on social media, including our Twitter and Twitch. But until then, thank you so much for watching this quick impressions. If you're Doctor Who fanatic, I'll see you guys next week. If you're an Arrow fanatic, I'll see you next week. But until then, peace out.